Sequoyah Technology's been here in Tulsa since '99. Coined a phrase from Hank is we were cloud before cloud was cool. Did a lot of software as a service projects, and noteworthy is prepaid legal was the technology that we worked with the initial group with and brought to commercialization, and has been a huge success. Event sites that's primarily focused on veterinarians with a multi-tenant solution, and Lumpkin Automation. They're based in Houston, oil field, last mile type device OEM. We'll go into that a little bit more. And then WellCheck Systems, that is a video collection store forward technology that we work with. But I think the most important thing is Sequoyah Technologies is the only consulting partner of Amazon's based in Oklahoma. And what that means is we are here to help. We're here to do strategy planning and work with organizations to help them take full advantage of these technologies. And our objective today was to go through these and certainly be available to anybody to talk about what they're doing, what they're thinking about doing, or what they didn't know they could do. So without further ado, I'm going to turn this over to Sam, and he's going to give us the general overview.
Thank you. So I figured we'd start by kind of talking about what AWS is, Amazon Web Services, and kind of go into their product categories and what they offer. So AWS is a subsidiary of Amazon.com. I'm sure a lot of you, if not everyone, knows that. AWS describes a technology and a company. Its first version was launched in 2002, with the initial version being focused on making information available from Amazon to its partners, and it was used primarily by developers to basically create apps. It was kind of relaunched in 2006 with its two primary products, Elastic Compute Cloud, EC2, and Simple Storage Service, S3, which are their two most popular products still. When they relaunched in 2006, they introduced the pay-per-use model, which is basically the de facto standard in cloud-based services now. So basically what that means is you're only paying for the cloud usage that you're actually using. So instead of paying for a server stack or a server room or paying for a database center, you're only actually paying for what you use as a company. And to compare it to Microsoft Azure, which a lot of you might be familiar with, their beta version was launched in 2009. So AWS was kind of the pioneer in cloud-based services, and they're still innovating and still being that pioneer in the market. So AWS is a secure cloud services platform offering the following. So they have compute-powered database storage, content delivery. Those are their three main categories. And then they have others, big data, IoT. I'll kind of get into more of those a little bit later on. So the technology allows subscribers to have at their disposal a virtual cluster of computers available all the time through the internet. Millions of customers are using AWS Cloud to build sophisticated apps with increased flexibility, scalability, and reliability. Some of the customers that are customers of Amazon Web Services include the online video streaming company that we all love, Netflix, the online rental vacation marketplace, Airbnb, the American public broadcaster, PBS, as well as even the 2012 Obama presidential campaign utilized AWS so that they didn't have to spend tens of millions of dollars in investing in an IT infrastructure. So this next slide kind of compares AWS to the market. So this is the Gartner research company. They do a Gartner Magic Quadrant every year for tons of markets. This is for the cloud-based services, and it's kind of showing a comparison. So AWS pioneered the cloud-based service movement back in 2006, developing what we know today. But this just shows that they not only were the leader back in 2006, they were the leader back in 2004, in 2017, basically they were the leader and they still are the leader today. So this shows that they're the leader in their ability to execute currently, and they're also the leader in their completeness of vision. So you can see Microsoft is certainly still behind, Google's still behind, and then some of these other cloud-based service providers. So we know that AWS is the leader in the cloud-based service market, but this shows that they're not a complacent leader. They're not just staying at the top, continuing to do what they've always done. They're continuously and actively innovating. So this just shows over the past 7 years, their new service announcements and updates. And so you can see they're innovating and growing at an exponential rate. They had 61 new service announcements and updates back in 2010. And just last year, they had 1,000 new announcements and updates, new features. So they're very proactive. They're very concerned with being the leader in the market and actually providing what is valuable to its customers. So this kind of goes into what I was talking about on the first slide, their product categories. So they have S3 and EC2 and RDS and some of these very popular AWS products, but they have over 80 AWS solutions, over 80 AWS products available to its customers. And so just to name off the primary categories, they have compute, database, application services, mobile services, developer and management, enterprise applications, messaging, storage, networking and content delivery, administration and security, analytics, artificial intelligence, business productivity, and Internet of Things. So as you can see, we're not going to be able to touch on all of these categories and certainly not all of the products today. But if you guys are interested in learning more about a certain category and maybe products within any of these categories, then you can certainly talk to one of us or give us a call later, and we're definitely here to help you. And like Paul mentioned earlier, we're the only consulting partner of Amazon Web Services in the state of Oklahoma. So we work very closely with AWS to provide the best solutions to our customers and their customers. So to go over the case studies, the founder and owner, Hank Haynes.
So I'm going to ask some questions. So I'm the old guy in the room. How many people have used AWS? Okay. How many people have used data centers? How many people are familiar with the electron film that gets all over your body? No? So I've spent a lot of time in data centers, and just the simple fact that I can sit at my desk and spin up virtual machines and spin up new boxes that hold databases, and I can replicate them with a click of a button is a huge ordeal. I mean, it is a big deal. I mean, that was hours and hours of time before. So the services they provide are very useful. They're very good. We've been on them. We've been providing Amazon Web Services for about 5 years. It was originated because of a big project we were doing, and so it got us into AWS. So some things that I want to talk about right off the bat is S3. I'm going to simplify some of these. S3 is a file system in the cloud. It's just, I know I'm simplifying it, but let's just make sure we understand what it is that we're talking about. RDS is a database in the cloud. And then EC2, that's a server in the cloud. Okay? So if you think about what you used to do in the data center, what you're really doing here is nothing more than putting those services into the cloud. Now they've expanded on these things, and I'll talk a little bit about how we've utilized them, but at a general level, we're just moving the data center to the cloud and making it easier to manage and allowing them to do a lot of the management for you. All right, so the first, I thought the best way to go through this is to actually go through some case studies. Most people grab a hold of ideas by looking at what has been done and how you've used it before. And so WellChecked, the interesting thing about WellChecked is it's a sensor-based video surveillance for remote well sites, okay? And so think of a gate opening, we would like to know who came in the gate. Think of motion detectors going off, we'd like to know who kicked off the motion. We hear a level sensor exceeds a limit, we would like to get a picture of the tank that the level sensor has exceeded a limit on. We had a system in Bakersfield, California, and we had a detection of heat. We turned on the video, we saw that there was a bunch of smoke that spewed and there was a pinhole leak. They were able to shut down the well remotely because they could see it, okay? Well, one of the things is that what we do is we actually take the video locally and then transfer it to Amazon Web Services. We take the video locally in high def and then transcode it locally so that we get it in a format that can be shown on the web and on your mobile phone. But in doing so, we send about 2 to 3 meg every video. Now we take a video every 30 minutes for every well site we have and every time a sensor kicks off. We've got over 2 terabytes of information up in the cloud right now that we store. There's a couple of things that this thing allows us to do. Because we store it in S3, one of the things is through their SNS, their notification system, we can actually throw an event and tell our systems that we've just received a video. We've received the video. Once that notification is done, then their queuing system can be queried and we can pull that data off of S3 and we can log it so that it's available on the web. Okay? So the interesting thing about this, the reason this is important is because normally to get your metadata about the video, as well as the video, you might think the remote system would make one call to your metadata and one call to your video storage. But because of the way all the systems work together in Amazon, we're able to simply just transfer the file, transfer the video, and everything else links together and we never lose any video. The other cool thing about this is Amazon doesn't charge for the transfer up to the web. So our cost to provide this service is near zero to get all the videos into the cloud. So this is an example of us using what Amazon Web Services provides to provide a really low cost, high bandwidth, nearly infinitely scalable solution for this product, okay? This gives you an idea of you always got to have a graphic. And so this is the graphic on that. You know, we work with some big customers. We've got systems from Pennsylvania to Bakersfield all the way down to the border of Mexico. We've actually, you know, right after we launched, we took investment. Right after we launched, and Sequoyah was one of the founders, and we're also the technology partner that put everything together. And you know, then oil dropped. The good news is that there's really a lot of activity right now. Now that oil is coming up and the oil business is starting to pick back up again, they're trying to keep their costs low. And so there's been a lot of interest in this. All right, so here's another case. About 5 years ago, which is the whole reason we got into Amazon Web Services, we were hired by Lumpkin Automation. What Lumpkin had is they had a box that sat at an oil site that only queried the well. So think about a rocker arm. I'll make it simple. Rocker arm sits there, and you run the pump to empty. What happens is they shut that pump off in a simple pump-off controller. There's a lot of information about what needs to be sent down to that pump-off controller. There's also information that needs to be pulled from the pump-off controller. But they wanted to make it so that every time they sold one of these, they could actually sell their customer also the controlling software as well. And they wanted it to run in the cloud in a multi-tenant scenario. Okay? Multi-tenant meaning you could have one installation of software, one deployment, but you could run, you know, n number of customers against it. Well, so we wrote that software, deployed it, collect terabytes of information about it. But for us, the reason this is important is because now we have a huge system in the cloud that needs a staging environment. Okay? Now, how many software developers do we have in the room? Okay, so we all know that when we go to the scariest button you ever push is the button that builds production, right? No?
Doing continuous delivery.
Well, yeah, all right. I'm not sure continuous delivery to the production system is something we do. We'll do continuous delivery to the staging server, but in this case, what they needed to do is they needed a test environment that they could actually deploy to a test environment right before they pushed to production. but they couldn't have it up all the time because the test environment needed to properly reflect what was in production, meaning duplicate servers, replicated databases. There's a lot of keys there. So what we did is in the cloud, we spun up a complete environment that reflected production, but we didn't keep running all the time. So it keeps our costs down because it's a large system. So we can spin it up, we can run all our tests, then we can deploy to production. All right, so the last example. EdgeStack is an environment where we collect a lot of data. We collect data off of a well site, and it's really any environmental remote collection unit. So think environmental, think farm, think solar panels, really anything, compressors, generators. What we have is we have an embedded system that runs in the field that's pre-integrated to the cloud. Okay? We collect, you can configure each box in the remote field. We collect the data and send it up. Well, one of the things that we need to do is all of the systems, it was designed to handle about 100,000 active brokers in the field. And so we needed replication, and we need to be able to scale horizontally, meaning we didn't want to buy bigger and bigger servers, we just wanted to buy more and more of the smaller ones. Okay? And because of the way the services are built, we're able to utilize as simple as DNS. They're baked in DNS so that we can round robin DNS calls. We have the queuing system. The RDS is a database, and so on. So, I mean, we've got a lot of different examples here of things that you can do. And you can see here that, again, we use the cloud to scale, and we can scale little and then go big. Right now, this particular product is just in its infancy, but when we did the scaling factor on this, we'll have about 50 servers that will all be in a cluster to run the 100,000 different connected brokers. So 50, but we start out with 5. Okay, and to spin up a new box, we have an image, and it literally takes us about 5 to 15 minutes to bring another one up. Okay, so that's the kind of scalability that we're talking. Anybody that spent a lot of time in a data center knows that that is not a possibility in the old days. Even if you had virtualized all your servers, adding more and more servers to your virtualized system takes a lot of effort. So these are big deals. I mean, all right. So let's talk about the 5 most common services as it relates to Amazon Web Services. We're going to start at the bottom. Elastic Compute Cloud is basically a box sitting in the cloud. It could be spread across many different boxes for Amazon, but for you, it looks like a single system. Okay? And this is where you would have your Linux instance or your Windows instance, and then at that point you could actually deploy your software. Okay?
Whatever disk image you want.
Whatever disk image you want. And once you create one, you can actually image that and you can replicate that easily. So once you set up your disk image, you can go ahead and log in, set it up the way you want, make another image, then you can replicate it. Simple storage service. It's a huge database of single objects. Think images, HTML files. You know, again, like I said, it's basically your file system in the cloud. But the great thing about it is that it scales basically infinitely. I mean, Amazon will keep ahead of what you can push it, okay? And it's spread all over the place. And not only that, but once you push the data, you can actually have archiving rules. So that the archive, the files that you pushed up there, can be archived into secondary storage. Slower access, but it keeps your costs down. Relational database systems, this is, at the end of the day, this is a MySQL server in your data center. It's your database system, okay? Postgres, I mean, and they've got SQL systems, they've got NoSQL. systems. And then you've got the simple queuing system. How many people have used RabbitMQ, ActiveMQ? Yeah. Okay, so it's a very simple version of queuing that is integrated with all of the pieces that Amazon provides. Okay, so it's a great way for one service to communicate with another service, or your code to communicate with things that are happening inside the Amazon web system. In fact, you can even have two services running that are yours, and you can communicate over that same pipe. Okay? And then notification system. So this is an easy way to hook up and hear about the things that are happening. And again, you can utilize this notification system as well. Okay? All right. Wrong way. So some keys that I think, especially for startups, that you guys can take away is, there's no upfront cost. I mean, you really, to just run some tests and to try out your idea, you can spin up a new Linux slice for $0. Okay. Now it doesn't stay running all the time, but when you're using it, it stays running. If you ever stop using it, it'll go to sleep, but it'll wake back up. But to convert that into a fully running box is very low cost. Okay. But again, you can get started for nothing. The other thing is you only pay for what you use. Now, and that's true, but if you have a server that provides a web service, it's got to be available all the time. So you're going to use 24 hours a day, 365. But there are certain services that they offer that are more finite, meaning like queuing. If you only send one message, you only get charged for one message, and one message is $0. So, there are certain services inside Amazon that you literally don't get paid. They don't charge you anything. Okay? It's a reliable infrastructure, and the reliability is the type of reliability that would cost you as a business a high-end system architect. Right? We're talking $70,000, $100,000 to keep a guy around that knows how to keep the reliability factor at what Amazon gives you simply by pointing and clicking. Okay, so this is a great advantage. Is it cheaper than having your brother-in-law come in and install a server in your closet? No. But I tell you, when you start calculating the cost of what it would take to provide a high available, highly scalable system, it's a bargain. You pay as you go, and the best thing about it, like I said, is you manage it from anywhere. Unfortunately, I've slept in data centers, and there's just this electron film that gets all over your skin. It's just awful. So that's the best thing about it, is electron film. All right, startups to enterprises. This is this yours?
Yep, that's mine.
All right. Yeah, we'll talk about any questions you guys might have at the end.
Yeah, so again. Yeah, it's on. So from a standpoint of what Sam talked about from a general product perspective, kind of a deep look into some of the products that we have some pinned up knowledge in and around, and a number of other products. I know Hank asked the question, but are you guys hearing what you want to hear about Amazon? Are we telling you the kinds of scalabilities, the low cost of entries, the kind of technologies on how to utilize what we're talking about here, the platform? Is this connecting with you guys? Good answers? Yes, sir.
I might, if you can elaborate more on really kind of, yes, the majority here are startups or relatively smaller companies. Elaborate any that you can on just what we might experience. I know our company,
Sure.
we use the email services and we pay $3 or $4 a month. Just give us some perspective of what it can take, or what's the steps to move forward.
Well, I'm going to hand that off to Hank here in a second. But one of the things Sequoiah's positioned well for is to be kind of like that data center guy, the development team, the guys behind the scene. We work with startups that literally are in the process of getting funded up to Fortune 100 companies. I think it's a great question because you've got to learn how to get in the game as cheap as possible, right? With as little money down. And we've had some really good success with startups that have gotten to commercialization, and we are involved with some that are at that point today that are preparing to be commercialized. So Hank, you want to talk a little bit about what that means?
So to get started in Amazon, they really, the bar is very low. You go to Amazon, it's aws.amazon.com. At that point you say create a new account. And then you create yourself an account using your email, doesn't have to be an Amazon email, your email. And once you're there, you have an account and they'll want a credit card that you'll put on file. And at that point, every one of these services are available to you, every single one of them. I would tell you that's the biggest hurdle you're gonna have to get over is when you look at it. In fact, I printed out. So I've got 3 full pages of services that they offer. The biggest hurdle you're gonna have is just navigating what services they provide.
Yeah, can I speak a little bit more to that? Because I think you are not sharing how big of a challenge point that is. So I'm a tech company, weather integrations, and I haven't met you guys before. We're doing more weather analytics. We moved to Amazon last fall. That was the biggest hurdle. So we're using RDS, S3, EC2. We want to start using the text messaging server. How do you system admin all that? Has been our huge question mark. We're still using Heroku, which for those of you who are doing apps, that is actually built on Amazon. Heroku makes it nice and simple. We're still trying to figure out how do we then probably have to go to Beanstalk to move our app to Amazon. So I don't think you can underestimate that statement. It's great because it allows you so much customization. It's overwhelming the customization.
So
Yeah, and I, one of the things I will say is that, as you guys heard, we actually Sequoyah have approached Amazon from the data center space, so not from an end user space. So a lot of these things we correlate, and they've been a pretty easy correlation for us, if that makes sense. Like I said, EC2, a slice in the data center.
Right, if you just take EC2 and S3 and sort of and the RDS and you look at it and you say, well, okay, those are the things that I use, but then how do I use them? Well, the list that Hank's indicates all the specialization that Amazon has tried to provide for people with specific needs, right? And so that's sort of the hard part. Is that, yeah, I mean, it's not any different than having a computer that you just turn it on, right? What did you put in the CD drive to load first, right? And then once you loaded that, what's the minimum setup that you need? And that's some of the things that Hank indicated about imaging, right? I mean, you can build your platform on Amazon, or if you have a server yourself, you can image that server and you can upload that disk image to Amazon and put it on a disk drive by using Linux or one of the other facilities for taking that image and putting it on a physical Amazon drive. And then now you have something that's bootable in Amazon that's exactly what you had in your shop, right? And so there's all kinds of ways to make that first step with smaller amounts of overhead than what you think. But it's still, the complexities are not any different than what you experience yourself in terms of administration and understanding what to do.
So tell me about your business. What kind of business is it? Yep.
So we're doing weather analytics. Our target market is that capital service here from
Okay.
And so we're pulling in data, processing it, and then providing a service. So we're a SaaS.
Gotcha. Okay. And yours?
Website, serving data, sending out notifications, text, emails.
Gotcha.
I do have a question because we're getting ready to move over to an app platform,
Uh-huh.
and we want to initiate text messaging. And so don't have a clear path there yet.
Yep.
So maybe that's something to talk about.
Yeah.
So something I was going to close with is, and it's a slide or two down here, but here's the point. Sequoyah is a consulting partner. We don't make money off of selling these products to you. There's no margin there for us. What we do is we help kind of strategize, plan, and execute. Whether that's an hour of our time or 5 of our guys at Monsanto, right? I mean, we scale kind of like Amazon scales with a customer. So some of the guys that say, all I need is a database and serve on a web so that people can purchase my equipment through the e-commerce platform, then we can simply say, here's how to do those things, here's our experience, here's the options, and here's the cost, right? We want to be kind of that resource to you, kind of like Amazon is a resource to all of us, right? We're the guys that can help talk about those things and say, hey, do you want us to help manage those things for you? If not, we'll show you how to manage those things and you manage them yourself. Going back to your question, we have a reach into our partner program, so we have accessibility to all the Amazon core folks. So when you start looking at a real analytics problem with big data, right, we're not going to know everything that you need to know to solve that. We grab one of our partners inside Amazon, let's get the group together and say, here's what I'm trying to solve, what's the best way to solve that inside this enterprise, and then we connect all the community together, and then we can be a resource, or we can be someone that can just kind of propagate these relationships for you guys to be successful. That's the great thing about partnering, is how do you learn to work together and learn how to move forward with these technologies, and you certainly will come across opportunities and needs that we can assist with, right? We're not here to sell, we're here to say, how do we build this community, right? So that's kind of where we are today, and one of the things that the local shoring, which is a trademark of Sequoyah now, is because we keep seeing these types of situations with mid-sized, large, even small startup companies that just don't have the depth and breadth of technologists that they need. And maybe they need someone with this skill or that skill or a team of guys for a short period of time. We've been able to step in real quickly, solve very complicated problems, and then sometimes turn those back over to the companies or extend that into other opportunities within companies. So it's trying to learn that ecosystem of how companies need to work and how they can afford to work, and kind of base it off of their plans and roadmaps and objectives. But primarily, we can connect you back into Amazon with the right folks through our partnership, right? That's what we're here for. That's why getting to know some of the folks here with the gray shirts on is the kind of guys you want to talk to, but you can't talk to them very long because they're pretty smart and I don't understand them all the time. So, but anyways, and so kind of that was my next slide. Let's talk, we can help, we can stop by and just chat. So how do we do that? We have established a tentative date for a Tulsa AWS Meetup, okay? We're going to start it on an every other month. Amazon's coming in, and right now we're tentatively looking at the first, second week of September, and they're going to bring their roadshow. They're going to have guys here. They're going to say, here's how the meetups work. What kinds of things do you want to learn? What do you want to know about? How do we connect you guys in? They're co-sponsoring it with Sequoyah Technologies. We'll be there. It's a way to start broaden that knowledge base and broaden that community. And then what topics do you guys want to learn about? And it might be a guy somewhere overseas that's doing an online presentation on a specific technology you guys want to know because he can't get here. But we're certainly wanting to start those meetups so that we have some consistency with these relationships and team building and how to use these products.
So is our registration going to generate an event notice?
Yep.
Okay.
Everybody that's on this list, unless you opt out, will get notified when that event's coming out. And certainly we want to let you guys know how to connect in with us if you have some questions or comments today, and certainly after this event today, if you want to just grab one of the guys and say, hey, this is something I've been thinking about. So again, this is a way to connect in. And so for us, it was, I'm a member of 36 Degrees North, and I wanted to help facilitate kind of this collective group of a place to come and a place to meet and a place to get to know one another. So we really appreciate them sponsoring this for us and Amazon and providing some food. If you guys get a chance, say thanks to Dustin and Sarah and the rest of the staff. But you know, they're here to help these kinds of relationships develop, and we hope that this has been helpful and interesting, and we're certainly available for more questions if you guys have them. Anyone? Well, good. We were so good, they don't have any.
In general, who feels like they have a small Amazon problem in first? A small.
Big one.
Yours isn't small, I know.
You have a small problem that you think Amazon would be appropriate for.
Well, actually, so our question right now is dealing with the RDS server. And as we add new people to our team, how do we handle the security side of that? So we can lock it down by, there's two ways you can do it. You can come in through EC2, you can have it locked down by keys and IPs, and then you can have secondary lockdown on the database, the RDS server. And so we're trying to figure out how do we bring in new team members that don't actually need access to everything, but they do need access to, they're going to have access to the EC2. Yeah, they're probably going to have access to the S3 to run some staging stuff to test out their code and the database. They don't need access to everything else. So that's some of our challenge points right now is how do we set up the systems that we're not giving them the whole thing, but we're actually giving them what they need to do the testing.
So I would observe, is your system designed for horizontal scaling, or is your S3 just the server? I mean, would it make sense for a new developer to spin up a VM, to horizontal scale your environment for testing, and only have access to their piece of hardware?
No,
and
they're
everything else?
going to have access to it already on the S3. Yeah, because theirs is not completely finalized, so it doesn't integrate into the existing code that's running on production already.
So a lot of that question depends on how you want to manage it. Obviously, if you spin up a MySQL RDS instance, then that security could be handled inside of MySQL. If you don't even want to give them access, now here's how we do it. One of the things that we do is we don't allow direct access to any RDS instance on the cloud. So basically you go to a LilyPad system, and then from that LilyPad, then you access everything inside the cloud. And then we manage access to the LilyPad, which could be a Windows instance that you remote console into or remote desktop into, or for some of us that like Linux, then we remote into a Linux LilyPad, and then from there you just have your client, and we give access to that. We try to, any base services that hold data, just in general, we don't allow any direct access to. So that could be another thing that you do is instead of, and you can get access through like even a workspace. So you could actually spin up workspaces inside Amazon so that you could LilyPad to them. That would be, to me, that would be a better way than for actually providing different users in your database.
That's sort of what I was alluding to.
That's what gave me the idea.
All right, so I saw a hand up front with a small problem maybe for Amazon.
I'm just starting, but I'm thinking about doing a fantasy football website, so trying to load up all data on a database as opposed to keeping it on just like a GoDaddy server.
Okay.
So in that case, there's a couple things. Actually, one of the things we're doing that I really like is we've separated our front end from our code. So I don't know how far along you are in the development process, but we put the middle tier on an EC2 instance, but then the front is all straight like an Angular 2 or an Angular 4 app. And we deploy that on an S3 web server. And then that allows us to provide great scaling. It's very fast, and you open it up to the public anyway. Also, now you're on the cloud instance, and then all the access that you're doing becomes RESTful. Regular RESTful calls, and we're starting to use JWT to handle all the security, which allows us to be stateless in all our security handling. The cool thing about that is now the view, whether it be in a browser, on a tablet, or on mobile, all the views are secured exactly the same way. And they're stateless, which means the cool thing about that is I don't have to hold state in session across requests. Right? Every request a new one, I unpack the token that's sent to me, and now I know who I am. All the other stuff, things like caching your database data and all that, can be handled in the caching at the middle tier, which is a lot cleaner.
Right, and separating the virtual machines, this is one of the things that I referred to horizontal scaling before. That's the notion of expanding with more machines, not with bigger hardware. So in Amazon, you can, of course, ask for different sized virtual machines with more cores and more memory and do all kinds of things. So what Hank was just talking about specifically was separating the front end and the back end onto two different servers means that you can use smaller hardware for each of those servers. And then you present yourself with the opportunity to horizontal scale the back end or horizontal scale the front end independently or vertically scaling whatever you need to satisfy. If you need base performance, you may need the vertical scale for one time, and then you say, okay, this is the kind of load that I want to pay for, and I get the return on. And then if I have to add more customers, I'll horizontally scale to another web server or another back end server. So there's some things, if you were building this as a big hardware piece, you may buy a giant server with 16 processors, each with 20 cores and terabytes of RAM and all this stuff just because you don't want to run out of space. And that's the interesting thing about Amazon is it provides you the ability to instantly not be out of space or not be out of processor or not be out of something. You can go into Amazon and rescale if you're not ready for horizontal. You can rescale vertically and add some more horsepower while you finish the work that you're doing.
Do you guys have any experience with the Amazon Lambda service? And can you talk about what that's used for and how you guys see it used in production runs?
We have not, actually. I know what it is, and we've messed around with it, meaning we've run some tests on it, but we have not used any of the Lambda functionality. Have you had any experience with it?
No, I saw another talk a couple weeks ago about it, and it looked really interesting, and I was just wondering if you guys have seen it in the field at all.
No, we actually are starting to do a lot of functional programming, especially for thread scaling. In fact, that edge stack, having 100,000 active brokers was one of the things we did. Is we developed it in a functional way so that we could have many, many, many threads, and we knew it was thread safe. So,
A friend of mine is just now entering the IoT space, getting ready to launch his company, and we talked about Amazon services, and he ended up, without telling me what he was going to do, he just went off on Azure and said it was the best fit.
Your phone's
For us in here
online,
that
so
are
I
having to
can't
make
help you with that at
decisions
the
in the near
moment.
future, what are the differences between those two platforms?
I mean, I don't know. Yeah, I don't know a lot about Azure, but just in general, being an old guy, an old technology guy, how many times have we heard that? That boy, this platform is the solution. I suspect the Azure platform is a good one. I also know that the AWS platform is a good one. I also know I could spin up a set of MQTT brokers in an EC2 set and put them in a cluster, and I could run my own set, probably about 100,000 active brokers.
And to answer your question, so I would Google Azure and AWS migrated. And we went with AWS because of Glacier. So Glacier is a full cloud storage at $7 a month per terabyte. I can handle that for database. That was a huge one for us. They also do not handle Postgres databases. So that was an absolute immediate disconnect for us. So,
I see.
I think people in here probably just give somebody some insight as to what
yeah,
the decision making was.
it depends upon your specs. So, that's, Google didn't have a full cloud storage, so that was one of the things that we were looking at when you did something that was cheaper.
Glacier is interesting for large data store because it's free upload. So you can stick as much stuff in Glacier as you want. are going to charge you for access to your data.
Yeah.
So that's the thing that they're banking on, of course, is that you want your data back somewhere. But, you know, if you have a bunch of data that you just need to let lay around to be safe in another spot, Glacier's a good place for it to go.
Yeah, we actually made the choice not to integrate with those IoT-specific solutions in either Azure or AWS because our platform needed to be deployable on both AWS and Azure and on-premise. Because a lot of the companies we sell to will not run their stuff in the cloud, so we had to make that decision. So. Well, this was fun. We don't get, you know, we're a bunch of geeks, so we don't get to talk geek very often, you know. So
your
we sure do
Lumpkin
appreciate
solution,
it.
what was? Can you tell me about the security used from the edge devices to the cloud?
On the edge stack.
Can you restate that question?
I think you're saying on the edge stack, what security do you use from the field to the cloud?
Yes.
We solve that a number of ways. So here's the deal. Most of the systems today, so I'll talk a little about how it's done today. Most of the systems today originate the connection from the cloud down to the field. And there's usually a polling system that is done, right? So we turn that upside down. We actually embedded software at the field. We shut access to the box off, and we originate all connections from the field to the cloud. Then the cloud then has to be a little bit smarter because he's got to hold what it is you want that broker to do. Okay, so that's number one. We closed off access from outside to the broker. The second thing we did is we have a commissioning process. When you power on that box the very first time, it wakes up, it says, hey, I'm a new broker, I don't have a registration key with me. Cloud, give me one. The cloud then originates a registration key and sends it down. That broker holds it for a certain amount of time until it's rebooted or anything, but it holds it for a certain amount of time. And then all access for data, for pushing data, for putting data, all that has to originate with a registered registration key. So that's the second way. And then the third way is the actual communication pipe itself is SSL. So those are the three ways we handle security. And it allows, you know, one of the things we're finding is what we did is we embedded a time series database in this embedded system. And so we actually query all the devices locally often, like every minute.
And what protocols do you have? That
Right
you're
now we
running
have
this
Modbus, we have Modbus TCP, Modbus over TCP, we have Modbus serial, and then we're working on some additional ones, like we're even working on like an SNMP processor. The processor we have is embeddable, so you can just put it in
Is
there.
that your product?
That's
the
our
hardware?
product, yeah.
Okay.
The way we're selling it actually is, which I think is the coolest part of all the technology, is that we're embedding it on devices that go in the field. We've actually got a couple of resellers already. So think about currently the way the thing is, everybody goes, buys the devices, they put them on a pad site or wherever it is, and then somebody else has to go figure out how to integrate them. Think about a scenario where all the devices you sell in the field are pre-integrated. They're cloud enabled through, we actually have this marketing. It says powered by EdgeStack. Powered by EdgeStack, if a company buys the product and they say, I really want the data off that product, that OEM can say, oh, well then go here and go pick up your data in the cloud. Now all of a sudden it's a Twitter integration. It's not Modbus. I don't know how many people just got out of school, but I guarantee you they're not teaching Modbus anymore, right? But they are teaching RESTful calls, they are teaching Twitter, they are teaching JWT. I mean, they're teaching some of this stuff. So that's what we do. We actually project what is local. We project it to the cloud. Did that answer your question?
Yes, thank you.
All right.
Yeah, what we found is a lot of the OEMs have tried to do some of this and have had struggles, right? And so they're saying, that's not a business we're really good at, but we know everybody wants our data, right? So we see this as, okay, you embed it, and then it's up to the customer to put the credit card in to get it, right? And if they want it, pay for it. If they don't turn it off, right? Make that optional to the customer. Don't make it a responsibility of the OEM.
Is that sold as an SDK as well, or do we have?
It is, yeah. We have, we're just rolling it out. We did a couple beta sites. We did one through the winter. We were out in the field for 4 months, had 100% data collection rate.
Those are
What class?
very bad cellular sporadic connections. Well, because it's a store forward, right?
Yeah.
It's not gonna not deliver, right?
What class of machine are you hosting this on?
We have,
Right.
we can actually deploy on a number of them. We have it on an ARM.
Yeah,
And an add-on.
AM335X, or what class, what series of ARM?
The latest,
The-
whatever the latest is.
Okay.
But we'll run on 2 gig of memory. That's another thing. We've got it down to where it's a low footprint. It's not a, we're not technology that you could run on a 10-year-old ARM.
Yeah,
It's got to have to be in the last 3 to 4 years. So, and it's about a 1.5 gigabyte footprint you need for the OS, the Linux OS, and then ARM kernel.
and it's a Linux based.
Yeah, and it's Linux based, exactly.
Okay.
And we actually have the hardware. We've got a couple of hardware platforms that we sell, but then we're also integrating with our OEMs
Okay.
hardware as well. And they've got a couple of them have their own Linux platform.
Could I get a card from
Hey
you?
guys, let me, while we're kind of winding down here, let's go ahead and break. We certainly appreciate you guys coming. If you want to sidebar and catch any of our guys, give us a call. Certainly want to try to create a ongoing discussion, and let's hit some topics. Like to hear from you guys on what topic Amazon can bring in a presentation and get them involved, so that you guys are hearing what you want to hear, not what we
You know
need.
Nick Knight?
I just wanted to say thanks for the pizza. It was great.
Yeah, I think 36 North.